Here is a straightforward rewrite of the script. I've preserved the core ideas, overall structure, explanations, tone, and original meaning very closely. Changes are limited to minor rephrasing for smoother readability, slightly simpler wording in spots, and more natural phrasing where it flows better. No major additions, deletions, or shifts in content were made. The word count remains very close to the original, around 3,800 words. If you're over 60 and experiencing burning feet, numb toes, electric-like tingling, or unsteady balance, these sensations aren't just a mysterious or inevitable part of getting older. They stem logically from a biological environment in your body that has gradually shifted over many years. Most people are told that peripheral neuropathy simply means nerves wear out with age, like a machine slowly running down on a fixed timeline. Others hear it's genetic, with little that can be done. Many get the impression, directly or indirectly, that the best option is to manage pain and accept a steady decline. What isn't often explained is that nerves don't deteriorate randomly. They respond to the chemical environment surrounding them, to blood flow, and to the daily metabolic signals they receive. When that environment turns harmful, nerves struggle. When it becomes more supportive, nerves can often retain more function than expected. Peripheral neuropathy isn't one specific disease. It's a pattern of nerve damage. It refers to what occurs when peripheral nerves, the long pathways connecting the brain and spinal cord to the rest of the body, begin to malfunction. These nerves carry signals for sensation, movement, balance, temperature, and pain. Because they are long and have high energy demands, they are particularly vulnerable to issues like poor blood sugar regulation, reduced circulation, inflammation, and nutrient shortages. That's why symptoms typically appear first in the feet and hands, the points farthest from the heart, most dependent on tiny blood vessels. A crucial point to understand is that nerve damage accumulates quietly over a long period before symptoms become noticeable. For years, even decades, nerves endure steady but hidden metabolic stress with no clear warnings. In this silent phase, damage builds. Proteins in nerve fibers alter shape, blood vessels stiffen, protective insulation thins, and electrical signals slow or become less precise. The nervous system compensates for a time, masking early issues. By the point when burning, numbness, or instability appears, the process is already far along. This lag is why neuropathy often feels sudden and unfair, even though it developed gradually. In many cases, a primary driver is a group of compounds known as Advanced Glycation end products, or AGEs. These form when glucose molecules permanently bind to proteins and fats in the body. The binding isn't benign. It changes the structure and function of those tissues. Once created, AGEs are difficult to remove and accumulate over time. They especially damage tissues requiring flexibility, accurate signaling, and strong microcirculation, which makes peripheral nerves a prime target. To understand why AGEs are significant, consider the molecular process. Glucose is essential fuel, but it's also chemically reactive. When blood sugar remains elevated for prolonged periods, glucose collides with proteins more frequently. Under certain conditions, this leads to permanent, stiff, sticky bonds. It's similar to how sugar caramelizes when heated in cooking. In the body, this happens slowly and consistently when glucose control isn't ideal. The result is tissue that is less flexible, less functional, and more prone to inflammation. Within peripheral nerves, AGEs strike three key targets simultaneously. First, they alter the nerve fibers themselves, interfering with proteins required for transmitting electrical signals. Second, they harm the myelin sheath, the fatty coating that enables rapid, smooth impulse conduction. Damaged myelin slows, weakens, or distorts signals. Third, AGEs injure the small blood vessels supplying oxygen and nutrients to nerves. These tiny capillaries are vital for nerve health. When they stiffen or narrow, nerves become deprived and fragile. This triple impact accounts for the variety of symptoms: burning pain from irritated, overfiring fibers, numbness from absent signals, tingling from irregular firing, weakness from impaired muscle communication, and balance problems from unreliable sensory feedback to the brain. Symptoms differ in combination and intensity, but the underlying pattern is frequently similar. One often overlooked fact is that fasting blood sugar provides a poor picture of this process. Many with neuropathy are told their glucose is normal because fasting levels fall within reference ranges. But fasting readings capture only the daily low point, not the damaging peaks. The greatest risk for age formation occurs after meals, when blood sugar rises and remains elevated for hours. These repeated post-meal spikes drive nerve damage over years. As we age, the body becomes less efficient at clearing glucose from the blood. Muscle mass decreases, insulin sensitivity declines, and sugar lingers longer after eating. This doesn't mean aging directly causes neuropathy. It means aging reduces metabolic flexibility. When combined with common modern habits, frequent snacking, late-night eating, and processed foods, it sets up ideal conditions for age accumulation. Vitamin B12 plays another critical role. It supports myelin integrity, aids DNA synthesis in nerve cells, and helps remove harmful byproducts. B12 absorption frequently declines with age and is further impaired by medications like acid reducers and metformin. Low B12 strips away a key protective layer for nerves, allowing damage to build rather than being repaired. Standard blood tests can miss functional B12 deficiency. Levels may appear normal, yet still be inadequate for nerve requirements. This discrepancy leaves many vulnerable without awareness. By the time symptoms emerge, the deficiency may have persisted for years. Dietary ages represent another frequently ignored factor. Ages form not only internally, but also in food. High-heat cooking methods, grilling, frying, roasting, browning, generate large amounts of preformed ages. These are absorbed and add to the body's total burden. Even with good blood sugar management, certain cooking practices can accelerate tissue damage. Switching to lower heat methods reduces this intake significantly. Once damage begins, inflammation worsens it. Ages activate immune responses that sustain chronic nerve irritation. This explains why symptoms often intensify at night, when circulation slows and inflammatory signals linger. It also accounts for how neuropathy disrupts sleep, creating a vicious cycle. Poor sleep increases insulin resistance, elevates stress hormones, and boosts next-day glucose spikes, which feed more ages and inflammation that further impair sleep. Movement stands out as one of the most effective ways to interrupt this cycle. Muscles draw glucose from the blood after meals. Even brief walks can substantially lower post-meal sugar levels. This isn't primarily about weight loss or vigorous exercise. It's about metabolic regulation. Consistent movement reduces the building blocks for ages and enhances nerve blood flow. Muscle strength is important as well. Muscle loss impairs glucose uptake. Gentle resistance exercises preserve muscle, supporting metabolism and indirectly protecting nerves. This advantage is often undervalued because it works gradually rather than providing immediate relief. Hydration aids blood flow and metabolic clearance. Dehydration thickens blood, reduces capillary perfusion, and concentrates glucose. Many older adults drink less without realizing it, subtly increasing nerve risk. Consistent fluid intake strengthens vascular health with minimal effort. Stress influences neuropathy via hormones. Chronic stress raises cortisol, which elevates blood sugar and fosters insulin resistance. Stress alone doesn't cause neuropathy, but it aggravates the metabolic conditions that damage nerves. Simple stress reduction techniques lighten this burden and promote stability. One of the most damaging beliefs about neuropathy is that decline is inevitable. This mindset discourages action and leads to passive acceptance of worsening. While severely damaged nerves may not fully recover, many partially affected ones can stabilize and function better in a more favorable environment. People often report reduced pain, improved balance, better sleep, and enhanced quality of life when additional damage slows or halts. The goal isn't perfection, it's protection. Every hour of stable blood sugar is an hour without chemical assault on nerves. Each improved night of sleep supports repair. Each reduction in inflammation enhances signaling. Over time, these benefits accumulate, just as the earlier losses did. Peripheral neuropathy isn't merely a nerve issue. It's a metabolic condition that manifests first in nerves. Viewing it this way transforms it from an unavoidable destiny to something you can influence. The emphasis shifts from symptom management to stabilizing root causes. This offers no guarantees of miracles, but it provides something more reliable. Control over the process. And that control truly matters. As individuals recognize that peripheral neuropathy arises from sustained metabolic stress rather than sudden nerve failure, another realization often surfaces. The nervous system doesn't function in isolation. It interacts constantly with other body systems. Blood vessels, muscles, hormones, immunity, and the gut all influence whether nerves remain resilient or deteriorate. This interplay explains why neuropathy rarely occurs alone. It commonly accompanies fatigue, sleep disturbances, digestive changes, balance difficulties, or mild cognitive fog. These aren't separate, they're varied expressions of the same underlying imbalance. A commonly overlooked element is persistent high post-meal blood sugar that doesn't meet diabetes criteria. Many people spend years in this gray zone, where glucose spikes excessively and lingers too long after eating, yet tests remain normal. During this phase, ages accumulate silently. Without a formal diagnosis, individuals feel reassured that nothing major is overlooked. But neuropathy doesn't require a label. It responds to ongoing exposure. Nerves react to the chemistry they encounter, not to diagnostic thresholds. Glucose clearance depends heavily on muscle tissue. After meals, insulin signals muscles to absorb and store sugar. When muscle mass declines, this mechanism weakens. Glucose remains in the blood longer, prolonging glycation. This accounts for why neuropathy risk increases with age, even without weight gain. Even lean, apparently healthy individuals may have lost substantial muscle, particularly without resistance training. This muscle-glucose connection also highlights why physical activity offers strong nerve protection, even without dietary changes. Regular short walks after meals reduce spike amplitude and duration. Over months and years, this translates to fewer ages, reduced inflammation, and improved circulation. The effect starts modestly, but grows meaningful. It addresses the cause more directly than symptom-focused approaches. The vascular system plays a central role too. Nerves rely on a delicate network of tiny vessels highly susceptible to glycation and oxidative stress. Ages stiffen vessel walls, decrease nitric oxide, and impair necessary dilation. This causes chronic mild oxygen deprivation, especially in distant nerves. Feet are affected first not because they're inherently weak, but because they're farthest from the primary supply. This vascular dimension explains why symptoms frequently worsen in cold weather or at night, when circulation naturally decreases. It also clarifies why a history of smoking elevates risk. Vessel damage persists and compounds metabolic harm. Inflammation threads through the entire process. Ages activate receptors that initiate inflammatory cascades. These heighten oxidative stress, damage nerve cell mitochondria, and exacerbate insulin problems. Inflammation stems from damage and fuels more of it. This cycle explains why neuropathy can accelerate after symptoms appear, even without lifestyle changes. Sleep serves as a crucial repair period. During deep sleep, inflammation decreases, insulin sensitivity improves, and growth factors support maintenance. Neuropathy that disrupts sleep shortens this recovery phase. Over time, inadequate sleep impairs metabolic control and accelerates nerve damage. This bidirectional relationship means even modest sleep improvements can yield substantial benefits. Late-night eating is particularly harmful in this context. Consuming food close to bedtime elevates sugar during periods of lower insulin sensitivity. This prolongs high glucose and interferes with overnight repair. Moving the last meal earlier often enhances sleep quickly and gradually alleviates neuropathy symptoms. No new foods or medications required, just timing aligned with natural rhythms. Gut health influences nerves as well. The digestive system manages nutrient absorption, immune regulation, and inflammation control. Poor digestion or chronic gut irritation can restrict uptake of B vitamins, magnesium, and other essentials. It can also trigger systemic inflammation. Gut issues seldom cause neuropathy on their own, but they increase susceptibility and delay recovery. Supporting gut function improves the overall nerve environment. Emotional aspects warrant attention too. Persistent discomfort, uncertainty, and fear of progression can trigger anxiety or depression. These disrupt sleep, elevate stress hormones, and reduce motivation for self-care. This forms another cycle, psychological yet profoundly physical. Breaking it requires empathy, support, and realistic expectations rather than self-blame. Not every case of neuropathy is metabolic. Autoimmune conditions, infections, toxins, chemotherapy, and genetics can also damage nerves. Nevertheless, metabolic health influences severity and progression rate in those cases too. Stabilizing blood sugar, reducing inflammation, and supporting circulation benefit nerves regardless of the initial trigger. This positions metabolic strategies as foundational. When people make adjustments to stabilize their metabolic environment, improvements often arrive quietly. Pain may lessen somewhat. Sleep improves. Balance feels more reliable. Temperature perception might partially recover. These changes can go unnoticed if dramatic reversals are anticipated. But they are meaningful. They indicate slowed damage and better performance in surviving nerves. Monitor progress over weeks and months, not days. Nerve recovery is gradual. Metabolic shifts require time. Fluctuations are normal. A difficult day doesn't undo progress. Focusing on longer-term trends provides an accurate view and prevents discouragement. In advanced neuropathy, the primary objective is preservation. Halting further loss of function dramatically enhances daily living. Reduced pain, better sleep, and greater stability promote sustained independence. These improvements matter even without complete sensation restoration. Medical oversight remains essential. Sudden or rapidly progressing symptoms require evaluation to rule out other causes. Medications for symptom relief should not be discontinued without professional input. Lifestyle measures complement, not substitute for, medical care. Research increasingly redefines neuropathy. What was previously regarded as inevitable aging is now seen as a modifiable process influenced by lifestyle, metabolism, and overall health. Full recovery isn't achievable for everyone, but many have greater agency over their course than previously believed. The most significant shift is in perspective. Neuropathy doesn't simply happen to people. It emerges in a particular internal environment. Alter that environment, and you alter the outcome, not instantly or completely, but meaningfully. Effective long-term management of peripheral neuropathy depends more on consistent small habits than on major interventions. Nerves respond to steady patterns, not sporadic perfection. One strong week followed by a prolonged lapse achieves little, but modest positive actions maintained over years can redirect the trajectory of decline. This may seem slow in a culture seeking quick solutions, but it aligns with how nerves truly adapt. Aging introduces natural changes that increase neuropathy likelihood. Insulin sensitivity declines, mitochondrial function decreases, and low-grade inflammation rises subtly. These occur even in those maintaining healthy weight and appearance. The changes are gradual and easy to miss until symptoms surface. Recognizing this reframes neuropathy as the gradual accumulation of small shifts over decades. Aging also weakens neuromuscular connections. Motor neurons progressively withdraw from muscle fibers, leaving some under-innervated. Remaining neurons attempt compensation, but there are limits. Over time, movement precision diminishes, balance accuracy declines, and nerve muscle signaling weakens. This elevates fall risk and reduces activity, accelerating muscle loss and metabolic issues. Foot care grows especially important as neuropathy progresses. Reduced sensation increases the danger of unnoticed injuries, ulcers, or pressure sores. Daily foot inspections become an essential routine. Proper footwear, skin moisturizing, and monitoring for calluses or nail changes help avert major complications. Many severe neuropathy disabilities result not solely from nerve damage, but from preventable foot problems that went undetected. Chronic pain alters brain processing. Sensory, emotional, and attention areas become hypersensitive. This central sensitization amplifies pain and reduces tolerance. Neuropathy care, therefore, involves soothing the central nervous system. Techniques such as slow breathing, mindfulness, or gentle activity can lessen symptom intensity even when peripheral damage persists. Stay attentive to key nutrients for nerve support. B12 deficiency can imitate or aggravate symptoms. Magnesium supports nerve conduction and relaxation. Supplements should follow testing and medical guidance, but awareness identifies reversible contributors. Hydration impacts blood viscosity and flow. Mild chronic dehydration restricts microcirculation and reduces nerve oxygen delivery. thirst perception often diminishes with age, heightening risk. Consistent, appropriate fluid intake bolsters circulation. Social connections offer surprising advantages. Loneliness heightens stress, impairs sleep, and diminishes self-care motivation. Maintaining relationships with family, friends, or community supports emotional well-being and indirectly enhances physical outcomes. Activity often feels easier and more consistent with others, adding metabolic benefits. Fear of deterioration can subtly restrict choices. Some avoid movement to evade pain or falls, but this accelerates decline. Replacing fear with informed actions is essential. Adapted exercise is safer than inactivity. Nerves benefit from gentle stimulation. Inactivity signals the body that an area isn't needed, reducing repair priority. Regular doctor appointments for chronic conditions can feel hurried or limited. Arriving with clear notes on symptoms, changes, and questions enhances discussions. Advocating for yourself improves care. It's not confrontation. It's necessary for effective ongoing management. Caregivers require support as well. Witnessing a loved one's ongoing discomfort is challenging. Understanding that progress is uneven and fluctuations normal helps manage expectations. Supporting caregivers ultimately benefits the person with neuropathy. Over time, the impact of small supportive choices becomes evident. Those who emphasize metabolic stability, movement, sleep, and emotional health frequently experience slower progression and fewer complications. Symptoms may persist, but they become more manageable. Life remains active and fulfilling rather than restricted. The most powerful concept is this: neuropathy is a condition, not your identity. You are a person with history, relationships, abilities, and aspirations. Maintaining this perspective prevents the condition from dominating life more than necessary. B vitamin levels merit early focus. Routine monitoring of B12, folate, and B6, particularly after age 50, or with medications like metformin or proton pump inhibitors, detects deficiencies before nerve health is compromised. Early correction via diet, sublingual forms, or injections when appropriate reinforces myelin preservation and repair mechanisms that enhance nerve resilience. Hydration, sleep, and stress management form preventive cornerstones. Adequate daily water maintains blood thinness and microcirculation. Consistent quality sleep safeguards the nightly repair phase when inflammation subsides and insulin sensitivity improves. Basic stress relief practices, deep breathing, short walks, time in nature, prevent chronic cortisol elevations that drive glucose up and insulin resistance. For families, prevention yields collective benefits. Many nerve protective habits also reduce risks for heart disease, cognitive decline, type 2 diabetes, and other age-related conditions. When older family members model earlier meal timing, regular movement, gentler cooking, and nutrient attention, younger generations adopt them naturally. Children and grandchildren learn that metabolic health is cultivated daily, not lost in later years. Conversations about neuropathy can move from fear-driven warnings, "You don't want this," to empowering, practical guidance, "Here's what I wish I'd begun earlier." Sharing simple adjustments, like family post-dinner walks or milder cooking, makes prevention feel achievable, not daunting. Screening is important too. Consistent monitoring of fasting glucose, HbA1c, and, when feasible, post-meal patterns identifies early metabolic shifts. Even within normal ranges, a gradual upward trend over years can motivate small changes before permanent damage occurs. Inquiring about B12 and other nerve support nutrients during checkups is another straightforward preventive measure. One of the strongest preventive attitudes is curiosity rather than acceptance. Instead of assuming nerves just fail with age, those who remain curious about how daily choices affect biology make more protective decisions. They observe how specific foods, late eating, or routines influence energy, sleep, or subtle foot sensations. That awareness drives incremental improvements well before symptoms demand attention. Prevention isn't about flawless execution or zero decline. It's about accumulating small protective factors year after year so the downward trajectory softens considerably. Someone in their 70s or 80s with only occasional mild tingling, solid balance, and reasonable sensation has typically followed these principles quietly for decades, not through extremes, but through consistent habits. The information presented here isn't hidden or overly complex. It draws from decades of research on metabolism, glycation, inflammation, nerve function, and aging. What has often been lacking is a clear, practical explanation of how these elements connect, particularly for those over 60 facing symptoms or supporting loved ones who are. Peripheral neuropathy doesn't need to be a mysterious or irreversible verdict. It's a signal, a delayed alert that the internal environment has strayed too far from balance for too long. The hopeful reality is that the same environment permitting damage can generally be gently guided back toward conditions that slow, stabilize, or partially restore function. You don't need to undo decades of change overnight. You simply need to cease contributing to the problem starting now and sustain that tomorrow and beyond. Each hour of balanced blood sugar, each gentle walk, each improved sleep night, each decrease in inflammation casts a small vote for nerve preservation. Over months and years, those votes build up. They don't eliminate all damage, but they rewrite the narrative from inevitable worsening to managed stability, from resignation to realistic hope, from powerlessness to genuine influence. That transition from nothing can be done to I can influence a great deal is where meaningful change starts, and once it starts, it usually continues.